So after 6 years of job searching and really getting clarity on what I wanted, I finally started as a VP of HR slash Chief People Officer at a nonprofit community health center. And it was a very long journey. I became a career coach along the way, which was a little imposter syndrome-y.
Yeah.
But I am absolutely thriving, and I have learned so much going rapidly from, I think, 2 months before had this job. I was feeling absolutely at my wit's end. I hadn't been getting interviews. Like, I was just absolutely frustrated to being on the other side of the desk and now receiving people's resumes and looking through our job descriptions and also posting job ads and understanding who makes it through and why.
Wow. So I'll start out with the comment you made on LinkedIn that has sparked a really interesting discussion and really surprised me because it was the opposite of what I've always been told. And yeah, do you want to summarize that?
Yeah, so the conventional wisdom is when you see a job you're interested in, reach out to everyone in your network who might have a connection and try to get introduced to the hiring manager for that role. And I recently had that happen and was really nonplussed by it, honestly. We had the resume, had looked over the candidate. Actually, there's a backstory there that sometimes roles are posted for a variety of reasons. You pushing the hiring manager actually doesn't make you more attractive. It
Mm.
actually, to me, was like, oh, you're a little desperate, and that's not appealing.
Wow. So it comes across as desperation?
Yeah, it does not for me, and truly, like your mileage may vary. But for me, it was, I don't trust the systems. I don't trust your processes. And I have to wave my hands in the air and really like catch your attention. I don't trust
Mm.
that my resume and experience, I don't trust that my cover letter was enough.
So what you're saying is on the hiring side, you've set things up the way you want them to come in. You've
Hmm.
been thoughtful about this.
Yes,
So when you're circumventing it,
yes.
yeah, that actually feels maybe insulting or um, I guess making your job harder.
It Because then there's another stakeholder, right? You've asked someone who
Mm.
has given their social capital to make this request on some level. So they've made themselves vulnerable for you. And there is a system. Organizations work really hard to set this up. And truly, bias is so rampant in the hiring process. Our job as hiring managers is to do everything we can to mitigate against bias. We want to have a fair, open, and transparent process where the best candidate truly does make it through.
That's a really interesting way to think about it, that what we've learned as applicants is that, everyone is using every advantage they have, so you need to do that too. But what you're saying is that results in a bias system that the best hiring managers don't want to reinforce.
Exactly. And you don't want to work for someone who privileges personal connections, honestly, right? Think about the long tail effect of that. Is it going to be the last voice in the room who gets their attention? Is this going to be how they deal with power? Do I want to hire someone who thinks that the only way to make a broken system work is to work the workarounds? No.
Oof. Wow. Yeah, let's steelman the argument, if that's all right. So I'm thinking of like we're both in a membership community where when we share job opportunities, we always say whether or not we can make an introduction. Is that sometimes useful?
I think it is useful for an informational interview, like, hey, I'm interested in learning more about this organization or this role. I think it is not useful when you're actually an applicant. And also, if you're asking for an informational interview as a way, as like a side way into an introduction and making yourself visible, I don't think that's kosher either. There's a story that's being told that hiring managers are overwhelmed with applicants. I think that's true for fancy brand name hot organizations that have presence and have attraction and appeal. it's going to be hard to break through there. And in that case, yeah, they probably do want to limit people to like the trust has to be pretty high to get in because everybody
Mm.
wants in. Most organizations don't have that though. And so if you're feeling stuck in your job search process, look at where you're applying.
Mm.
We truly don't get more than 13 applicants for most of our jobs. Some jobs we only get one or two applicants. The
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had trouble finding the organization. I wasn't looking for this organization. It was absolutely cold. I didn't know anybody in the organization when I applied. I didn't try to make any connections, and I went through. One of my fellow Generalist World members just started a new job, zero connections inside. Never would have even thought about it, and she is loving it. She's really happy there.
Wow. Thank you for exploding that myth because, yes, I had gotten the impression on LinkedIn that absolutely any job that's being posted is getting hundreds, maybe thousands of applicants, and they have no way of sifting through. Nobody has the time. Maybe they're using AI to try to figure out what to even look at. That's the impression you get.
And it's just not true. I think there are certain jobs. I think if it's a remote job or if it's a job that, again, is with a really high profile company, probably, yes. I'll tell a quick side story, which I never thought would be relevant, but I used to teach an independent school in on the West Coast. And the independent school had some very, very famous wealthy families who are attending that school. Once those children started the school was no longer doing admissions to find the best candidate, or best children, the best family fit. They were filtering out people because the desire wasn't for the applicants wasn't, oh, I'm going to get a great education. It was, how do I get connected to these famous people? How do I get a play date with these people?
Get a play date.
All right, it's access to power.
Wow.
And I think if you're looking for a job, you really need to ask yourself, am I applying for this job at this company because it's the right culture fit for me, the right organization, I have the experience that matches up with what they're looking for? Or do I think this is a really sexy brand that I want to be associated with?
I'll give you a heartening counter anecdote, which is that when I was doing my master's in public health, we went and visited the state house and we talked with our representative. And she was saying how important it was, to actually hear from the constituents and how she was talking with one of her other state senators who was absolutely convinced that he had to vote a certain way because he kept saying, "Well, I keep hearing from my constituents." And she said, "How many did you hear from?" And he said, "Well, at least three." So sometimes, yeah, there really is a lot that you can do just with your own one voice and one outreach. But that, I guess, is in the form of a cover letter.
This is actually a great point. I'm really glad you raised it because the thing that people are not doing is writing cover letters. They're doing easy apply because I think there's a degree of
Oh,
cynicism around the job search process. And
oh,
I'm on vacation this week, and so I've got lots of time for my brain to like think.
cool.
And I'm thinking about revising our application process because people aren't sending cover letters. And honestly, you put a cover letter in, you are already like way ahead of everyone else because we know more about why you're interested. You put some thought into this. This isn't just easy apply.
I had no idea people weren't writing cover letters.
Absolutely, because the advice again is nobody reads cover letters. Not true.
Okay, can we dig in a little to what makes a great
Yeah.
cover?
Absolutely. So, what makes a great cover letter is showing that you have done some research into the organization. You have a personal connection that you can advocate for why you want to do this work at this place, why your experience is relevant, and a little bit of a taste of the value you're going to bring as the person who gets hired into this role.
So when you say personal connection, you mean to the work, to the job, to the role.
To the work, to the job, to the role, if it's a mission-based organization, to the mission. If it's not a mission-based organization, they still have a vision. And tying into that vision of the founder or the CEO shows that you've actually spent some time and you've invested into looking into this company and you're really sure that you're going to thrive there. And you want to talk about, start a conversation about what that would look like. So few people put that level of thought into it. And I can hear people saying, but that means I'm going to apply to less jobs. Uh-huh. It's not a numbers game. And that's something else I hear is that it's a numbers game. It is not a numbers game. It's a clarity
Ooh.
game.
Ooh, that's a great line. And I agree wholeheartedly. I'm just thinking my domains are more in like applying for funding
Right?
for projects. And there's a degree to which there are factors outside your control. Like you said, in the job hunting case, sometimes it really is an internal search, but you had to post it or something. Those factors you can't control, but if you can align
Yes.
with the organizations who really want the work you're doing, then your chances skyrocket as opposed to try to wedge something in because it's available.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That was what unclicked my job search for me. It's what unlocked everything. I
Mm.
stopped trying to apply to places I was excited about and thought about places that would be excited about me.
Ooh, wow. So looking at that cover letter, because I'm always thinking about what is the very first thing you have to say? Do you start with, here's why I'm excited about this position, and then backfill, here's my background?
Start with the why. Simon Sinek always says, start with the why. So position yourself as right up front. I saw this posted on Indeed, and I knew I had to apply because I am so excited about the work you do. This is why I'm excited about the work that you do, because in my past, I have had this experience, this connection. Our organization is a mission-driven organization, is very clearly looking for people with lived experience. I
Mm.
think that's actually true for every organization. I think about the startup tech companies that I fruitlessly applied to. I had startup tech experience, kinda, but not the lived experience that they could clearly understand.
What does that look like?
So for them, that means that they would be looking for candidates who had actually done a
Mm.
seed to Series A
Yeah.
transition, people who had come in at a certain level and then progressed to the next level, people who had worked in not just tech, but that specific sector of tech, because there would be less translation work required and onboarding on their part.
So when you were working as a coach,
Hmm.
were you helping people figure out like what companies would be excited about in their background?
Actually, the first step was even more basic. It was getting clarity on what they were looking for.
Mm.
Because I think a lot of job seekers try to make themselves be what other people want. The first
Hmm.
step is actually getting clear on what you want so that you can more easily see the things that are going to want you,
Okay.
right? So, um, for instance, I've just been working with someone who has a real passion for working with adults on the autism spectrum and helping them connect with work opportunities and thrive at work. And so I help them identify that as something that that's their core superpower, and they need to look for an organization that wants that core superpower that they bring. Unless you have full clarity on what it is you're looking for, the kind of place you want to work, where you thrive, the kind of leadership you want to work for, you're going to just go ping-ponging all over and you're not going to be successful. Once you have that level of clarity, the path forward becomes a lot easier to see.
And then you can pour yourself wholeheartedly into that cover
Yes.
letter.
Yes, and your resume. I think so many job seekers start with a resume, but a resume is a narrative of your experience. And you don't know the story you want to tell until you have clarity on the story you want to tell.
Wow. Do you recommend that folks are adjusting their resume for each application?
No, and that's another piece of advice, right? Which is the amount of time I spent customizing resumes fruitlessly, right? So
Oh.
I recommend that you get a core resume that speaks to your strengths, tells the story you want to tell, which will then align with the opportunities you're looking for. If you're redoing your resume for every single opportunity, it's like shape shifting. And it tells me you don't have clarity on what it is you want. You're trying to be all things to all people. So don't do that.
It's the toughest thing for some of us who are generalists. Yeah.
I
How do you
know.
tell the whole story? But it sounds like maybe part of it is also recognizing where you are at this moment in time.
Exactly. You can be a generalist. Be a generalist. That's fabulous. But at this point in time, you are this kind of a specialist. The
Mm.
thing about generalists that I've come to realize is that we love being generalists. We love our stories. We're so proud of the ping-ponging we've done and like the interesting routes we've taken. Nobody else cares.
Oh
Like,
no.
like, they really don't. They want to know that you can do the job. I just had a meeting with my boss a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned that I had been a director of development in a previous life. And he looked at me with raised eyebrows. He went, "That's not on your resume." And I said, "Nope, for reasons." And he said, "Well, I don't know, maybe you were really bad at your job." And I was like, "No, it's just the most boring thing I've ever done." Like, I didn't want it on my resume because that wasn't part of my story I wanted to tell.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay. So when you're constructing yours, you want the greatest hits, the parts that like really resonated with you that you want more of. Yeah.
Yes, and also I want to be aware of my audience and
Mm.
know what story they want to hear. I want them to buy a ticket to the show.
Right. And I think that's what's led to the resume customization is that I'm applying for this job, which has one set of requirements, and this job, which is something else. It sounds like in your system that you recommend, you get clear on one type for this search
Yes.
first. Don't
Yes.
don't try to apply to 8 different roles, 8 different paths.
Correct. Absolutely. Because there is one direction that fits you best at this moment in your life. And it could be a rejection of what you experienced before. It could be you connecting the dots of where you've thrived in the past. I think every job search is a little bit of a Goldilocks problem. And so for myself, I really, once I stopped panicking after 6 years of fight or flight, I thought about where I had thrived in the past. And I didn't thrive in small organizations. I had plenty of evidence for that. I loved the ego boost of being with really big brand named organizations, but I didn't thrive there either. I
Mm.
thrived in mid-sized organizations with mission-driven leadership. And so that's what I focused on.
That's very succinct. Now, how would I know as an applicant if an organization is among those who are receiving hundreds or is really looking at 13 or 3?
This is where you just have to put your best foot forward, honestly. Like if you put your best cover letter and your best resume, you have to trust the process. Is the process broken? Yeah. Do you want to work for an organization that has a broken process? No.
Mm, so
So,
use the filtering mechanism.
yes. Like if you want to be one of many, then load your resume with keywords. Look at the job description and put every single word in that job description into your resume in some form or another. Work the system that way. But if that's not the experience you want, if you want to be seen and known, which if you are using back channels to get someone to introduce you to someone on the team, that is your vibe, then really just invest in the cover letter, invest in the resume, and trust that you are enough.
Could you tell me an example of someone you hired who did this well?
Yeah, actually, I'm really excited to bring on a new people operations partner in 13, no, wait, 12 days? 12 days. I'm like 2 weeks. I'm so excited to bring him on board. He had military experience, so no directly analogous, like not with our sector. He had worked in healthcare for most of that. Um, had no connections to our organization, did not do any outreach to anyone on the team, but just submitted a super thoughtful cover letter that explained his journey, his experience of the pandemic, why he was doing what he was doing now, and what excited him about the role. And we did not have a ton of candidates. I think we had 6 people apply. So that was one thing. We were also very specific in our job description of what we were looking for. And so we were filtering for that. The top thing was had healthcare experience. And so if you didn't have healthcare experience, but you had HR experience, we didn't talk to you because we really needed that healthcare experience. Read the job description. It tells you what you need to know. Anyway, so we interviewed him and he was our top choice actually from the moment he applied. He was the person we wanted.
Because of the way he shared his
Yes.
story and his enthusiasm.
Yes. He told a story in a way that made sense to us and resonated with what we needed to have happen in our organization.
Are we still talking about a one page?
Absolutely. So the cover letter should be one page. Your resume doesn't have to be. Your resume can be 2 pages. I wouldn't go 3.
Mm.
Nothing on your resume should be older than 10 years. So that will help you to edit your resume and make sure that it stays relevant to the
Oh,
present. Oh,
I
yeah.
hadn't heard that. Really? Drop everything from more than 10 years ago?
Drop everything from more than 10 years ago. Think about what you were doing 12 years ago. Is it relevant to what you're doing now?
In my case, yes. So that's tricky. Maybe there are exceptions. So because I was a journalist for 10 years and then I worked with academics for 10 years,
Hmm.
and so much of what I bring is the ability to have those skills infused into communications among experts.
So that's actually where I would talk about that in your cover letter and
Mm-hmm.
introduce that part of your story in the cover letter. And you could have a section where you're like journalism experience and then summarize that, but only use like dates, where you worked, and what your role was. Don't go into the full bullet points like you do for your more relevant experience.
Interesting. So the cover letter might actually have more depth
Yes, that's where you
and
put the
the resume more detail.
exactly. So the cover letter is where you tell your why. And for you, your why is the journalism. Your journalism skills help you to connect the dots and help people tell their stories more effectively. That's your core superpower. And that's the thing that you bring that no one else in this sector does. No one else can have 10 years of journalism in the places where you're doing journalism, and no one else can tell the stories you way that tell the stories. That's your differentiator.
Huh. Fascinating. So, what did you see people doing when you were sitting next to the applicants? Like, what was the common approach?
Oh man, resumes are so bad. It's actually painful as a career coach to go through applicant resumes because I just want to reach through the screen and be like, honey, you need to redo this.
Really?
Yeah. It's painful. Like people don't know how to tell their own story. They don't know how to do anything other than relay the chronological order. I see
Mm.
people not putting in bullet points or putting in bullet points that are tasks that basically is like I cut and pasted from my job description, but I'm not thinking about the impact I made or
Oh.
the secret spice that I bring, what makes me stand out. So I just see lots of missed storytelling opportunities and people just being like, just the facts. That doesn't help me get excited about you as an applicant.
So I had heard the advice to bullet your accomplishments.
Mhm.
I had not heard drop everything more than 10 years old. Are there other general rules that people are violating all the time?
So basic resume structure is start with a summary at the top that encapsulates who you are as a professional and makes the connection to why you're excited very briefly. Like, for instance, if you are applying to a Series A tech company, or to a more relevant for your audience, perhaps, to a regional higher education institution. In your summary, talk about your experience in aligned organizations and that you're an expert, you bring this level of experience, and then put like what you're looking to do now. So what are the challenges you're excited about? And then for your experience, start with your job title, then where you worked and the dates with a month and a year after for that first line. And then bullet point your experience, start with strong action verbs, and talk about what you accomplish. For non-profiteers, a lot of us struggled with the numerical, like, I don't
Yeah.
have numbers, I don't have data, like, I can't put, increase sales by 33% because that's not how we capture metrics. It doesn't have to be numerical in like that kind of a number way. It just has to show how the organization or the work was better because you were there. And so often people are just like, I filed these papers or I managed this program. That doesn't tell me what made you special and why I should bring you onto our team.
So if the resume is kind of like, here's me before I found your job description, and
Yeah.
then the cover letter is, here's me when I found your job description.
Yes. And here's me, once you hire me, this is why you're going to be so stoked in 6 months that you made the decision to bring me on.
Ooh, that's wonderful. Yes. Um, so anything that really surprised you with
Hmm.
getting to this seat? I mean, was there anything that you were doing that you're like, oh, now I know?
Ah! Oh my gosh, so embarrassing. Um, yeah, I think I was hitting auto apply for things like I was just sending my resume. That was absolutely something I did. I was applying to jobs where my experience was so tenuously connected that it was ridiculous and backwards. Like I now see people whose experience is so tenuously connected. I'm like, oh no, no. Um, and I also see people, and I just had a conversation with a friend last night who said I applied for this job. I was absolutely perfect. All of my experience lined up, and I didn't even get a screening call. And I see those resumes come through too sometimes. And as a hiring manager, I'm like, there's nothing here that's going to help you grow. Like, you've already done this job, so why do you want to continue doing this job? And you haven't given me any evidence that there's something about this job that is appealing to you other than you feel like it's an easy, like, slam dunk for you.
So you really want to see someone come in where this moves them forward.
Yes, of course, because I want you to stay. And people
Mm.
don't stay when they're bored. People stay when there is growth or an impact they can make.
That's so helpful because I've never heard somebody really explain the overqualified trap. And I
Yeah,
think that's what you're doing here.
yeah,
So if it looks like I can come in and do it in my sleep,
yeah.
or that I'm not able to articulate any way in which this is going to allow me to flourish and
Yes,
expand,
yes.
then it's not, it makes me less attractive as a candidate. That's a mind-bending revelation. Mm. Okay. So you actually like in the cover letter might want to communicate the ways in which it would positively challenge you.
Yes, absolutely. Talk about how you are excited to stretch and grow, where almost like highlight your growth edges and how this job feels exciting to you because it meets your growing edges and where you want to grow and you want to change. People don't want to hire people who can do a job in their sleep because that means you might be asleep at the job.
So should the resume also be telling a growth journey?
Yes. Like, how did you do more? No person, unless it's a very low skill job where repetition is key, once you're at a professional level and you have more than 10 years of experience, so you need to leave your experience off your resume, you do want to show the story, the arc. How did you get from here to where you are now? What changed? What grew? What did you build? Because I want to see someone who's invested in their growth, because that means they're going to be invested in our growth.
So a lot of went from this to this.
Yes. Yes. What's the change that happened in you, because of you, with you?
So you said at the beginning of our conversation that there's a lot of people who
Mhm.
sell services based on inaccurate advice. Can you highlight some of that?
So this is a little bit of a LinkedIn rant. I think LinkedIn has become useless, frankly. It is a marketplace for consultants who are looking to sell services, late stage capitalism, et cetera, et cetera. I think that the idea of LinkedIn was great at the start. I know they've had trouble monetizing and figuring out what their product actually is. And
Mm.
so I think going to LinkedIn for advice, honestly, not a great move. Like it's not good for networking anymore. The advice you get is questionable. People in a capitalist framework, people are creating a sense of lack and need in you and unworthiness. And then they are offering you the pathway to become worthy through paying them money for their services. And it's sad and it's frustrating. And I think it leads to a lot of confusion on people's parts. So there are a lot of consultants who will deliver a 6-month package offering that will take you from lack of confidence to being fully confident. And they will pitch that and they will tell you, here are all the things you're doing wrong. I can give you the method to reach out and build your network. I can teach you how to. And then it's super easy for you to purchase their services, and then you're locked in for a 6-month contract.
And do you have a sense of what they actually get?
Uh, it's often prepackaged material, so it will be um, like a set of pre-recorded webinars that
Mhm.
you have access to. There will be some kind of community element where you can exchange, like connect with other people online. Um, there may be some worksheets that you can download that will help you think through your process. Um, Again, your mileage may vary if it feels like this is something that will help you, but I think it's a lot about mindset shift rather than actual utility in most cases.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a strange position where the thing that I'm trying to sell now is journaling. I'm trying to sell people on
Mhm.
self-reflection, right? And so it's a funny thing because it's all like you need to get in touch with yourself and
Yeah.
um and I mean it's a strange place to do it. But yeah, we're all navigating shifting waters. Um
Yeah, we really are. I will say that the value add you bring, like specifically you, is that you have these incredible workshops that I know change people. You guide them and you teach them tools that they can activate without paying more money that they really inhabit. And even if they don't, just the spaciousness you provide in your live sessions. And you could do this in recording too. Like I don't think it would be as impactful, but the community that you build just for that hour that you're with people, that is a value. People are longing for connection.
yeah.
Connection is expensive, both in terms of energy and time. And so people are trying to figure out how to reduce the cost of that so they can widen the pool of people who can access it. I don't know that scale is always the answer.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is funny when you're trying to do something that like all the names for these things have been overused, and so it's like, well, even journaling doesn't necessarily describe what it is I'm up to, which is
Right.
very much about enabling people to understand how they feel and why. And what they really want, like you were talking about. And but like workshops, there's a million workshops, so it does become a very crowded, noisy
Yeah.
environment. Yeah,
You're
maybe we need.
talking about emotional literacy
Mm,
and of transparency into your feelings. I think that's essential. I honestly, if we could make that a school curriculum in
wouldn't
college,
that
like first year,
change everything?
it
Yeah,
would.
yeah. Um, well, and to circle back to the question, the original idea of like the personal connection, is the exception when what you want is to understand the workplace. So you're not even asking for someone to pass your name along. You just
No.
want to have a conversation with someone who's
Yes.
there so that
Yes.
you can figure out whether or not you actually would feel good in that environment.
Absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. Like, hey, and don't ever use the expression pick your brain, please. Don't ever use that. It's like physiological grossness
Yeah.
is don't. But like, I'm interested in learning more about the work you do. People are fundamentally egocentric, which is why the approach that most people take in applying for jobs is egocentric about them. Your job is to make it egocentric about your audience. So
Mm.
people love talking about themselves. They love sharing their career journey. They love talking about where they work. They love marketing. Even if they don't like the word marketing, what you're doing when you talk about your work is marketing.
Hmm.
So yes, that attaches to someone's ego and like, if you've got 15 minutes, I would love to learn more about your career journey and the work you do.
Although if my objective is actually to learn more about that workplace,
Yes.
is it okay to say that?
Yes,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Like I'm interested in learning more about this workplace, and it could be the sector that you're in, and you're an example of this, or your organization. I've been hearing some good things, or I'm interested in learning about more
Mhm.
companies in this space. Like I'm really interested in regional higher education institutions, and I'm just looking to learn more about how they work on the inside. That's fine.
Mhm.
Your success rate for response isn't going to be high. I will say
Mhm.
that. So it's going to be persistence that gets you there, but you don't need it to be high. You just need one or two yeses.
Right. Oh my gosh, this is a big ship to try to a barge, to try to turn around the idea of let me find a personal connection. And, you would often hear like, okay, I'll keep an eye out for your application, something like that. We don't want to hear that. We don't want.
No, and that doesn't mean anything. Like truly, an effective application or an effective hiring process is unbiased. I would love to find a way to remove names and higher education
Oh,
from applications because I want to
ooh,
remove as much bias potential as possible. I want to look purely at someone's experience.
wow. All right. I'm keeping. Yeah, anything I forgot to ask you that you wish you could tell applicants?
Uh, just to reiterate, it really is quality over quantity. So do your homework. It should be 70% of your effort should be on the front end, which is looking at yourself, understanding what you want, getting clarity on that. And then the final 30 is the resume and cover letter and identifying the organizations and leadership that you want. I think we have the whole process turned upside down.
Mm. Because yeah, if it's a numbers game, which is what everybody thinks, I mean, why not apply to those tenuously linked ones?
These are the same people who are doing online dating and wondering why they don't have a relationship yet. I would say
Ooh.
it's because you don't know the kind of relationship you want. And so you're just casting a wide net, hoping for any kind of bite. And I think there are a lot of people who are unhappy because they settle for the bite instead of knowing what kind of fish they want to catch.
Ooh, yes. I have a whole journaling exercise around that too.
I'm so
I might
glad to
need to
hear
offer. Oh, yes.
it.
So much fun. Thank you so much for talking with me.
This was a joy. It's always good to catch up with you. I love your brain.